This week on the Analog Circle podcast, we will actually be going over listener feedback this week. And in this episode will be starring Mr. Crimson Phoenix. On top of that, we're also going to go over the gaming news that happened this week. We will be discussing Xbox's new controller that will compete against the DualSense. Could Star Wars Outlaws be releasing in the summer? We'll discuss a few things that do point to that being a possibility. We find out what type of game Sony Bend Studios is working on, and to me, I don't think many people will be happy with it. And Grand Theft Auto 6's development timeline could be in trouble. Development could be slipping, but we will discuss it. But all of these stories and more can be found here in episode 202 of the Analog Circle podcast. I am your host, Keon Mitchell, and welcome to the show. Welcome. So glad to have you guys here. Now, as I said, we're going to actually kind of go old school on this episode, and we're going to put in listener feedback as well as the gaming news that happened. So, if you guys would like to be part of the next listener feedback, you can do that two different ways. You can either call in, and the phone number is 443-380-0281, and let your voice literally be heard. Or you can email the show, and the email address is simply the Analog Circle Podcast at gmail.com. So without further ado, I want to get things started with the listener feedback, which I have to give a real big shout out to my brother, Crimson Phoenix. Absolutely. This brother wrote in 3 times. So as the show goes on, we're going to go over each one of his emails. So we'll get things started with the first one that he sent all the way back in February. I do humbly apologize, Crimson Phoenix, but let's get started with that. So the name of his email is What Say You? He says, I don't fear what I don't yet have, nor what I may lose, because it hasn't come to pass. I enjoy my games where I play. He says, I enjoy my games where I play is irrelevant. How can we enjoy life and games if all we do is worry about what may or may not happen? All that FUD and FOMO is getting tiresome. I'll worry about a bridge when it's time to cross and vote with my wallet. Enough said. That's my rant. So I'm going to guess, Crimson Phoenix, was this, and you have to pardon me, brother, because like I said, this was back in February 21st, to be exact. So it's been a little over a month now. Was this the question? And I'm going to tackle it from this perspective, if it is. And if it's not, Crimson Phoenix, you know how to get to me, brother. But would this have to do with me asking the question, if games weren't coming day and date from Activision into Game Pass, would you still keep your Game Pass subscription? I think that's what he may be talking about. And since then, we have actually got word that that is not going to be the case. Games are still going to come to Game Pass from Activision day and date. Call of Duty being one of the bigger titles that will be releasing. Diablo 4, we know that that's going into the service as well very, very soon. I believe sometime this month, if I'm not mistaken. So I do understand your point, but what Crimson Phoenix was basically saying is he's not worried about the future. He's going to worry about the now, and he'll pass that bridge when it happens. Well, luckily, if again, this is the email, not the email, but the question of the week that you were answering, Crimson Phoenix, you didn't have to cross that bridge, brother. Like you said, you weren't worried about it. And if it was a situation where it would have happened, you would have dealt with it at that point in time. So, Crimson, I definitely agree with you. You're right. We can't live our life in fear of things that may happen. And we should just concentrate on the things that are happening right now. Enjoy those things and don't worry so much about what we can't change or what we don't know. What the future may pertain to that specific thing. So I definitely agree with you on that, Crimson Phoenix. Crimson Phoenix, like I said, brother, that was your first email that I read, but I got 2 more here of yours to read, and I'm going to read those during the course of the show. But let's get into our first gaming topic this week, and it actually comes, or I should say gaming story, and that comes way of Game Rant. So it looks like a leaker has leaked a number of details about the new Xbox controller. First, the name. The name's controller is reportedly called Nocturnal Vapor. Now, it is supposed to release, and this is very, very soon. It's supposed to release on April 9th, and the price of the controller will be $69.99, which actually isn't bad. It's around the regular price of a controller today. God dog, I remember when them jokers used to be $40 and $50. Man, times have changed a little bit. But the controller was leaked last year in September of 2023 after a FTC leak where it was described to have DualSense-like haptic feedback. Now, it will also be pre-order starting on April 2nd, according to the leaker, whose name is Deal Abs, Bill hyphen Kun. That's his name. God dog. That's a mouthful right there. Oh man. But, yeah, so we'll see what happens with this. I'm more interested in this controller because of the fact that it has this haptic feedback, or supposed to be like the DualSense controller, because I'm telling you, I know a lot of people don't really make too much of a fuss about the PlayStation DualSense controller, the haptic feedback in it, but until you can experience it, man, it is just so different. So if Microsoft is going to be doing the same thing, because it's very interesting. Phil Spencer said, good grief, it had to be at least 2 years ago, maybe even 3 years ago at this point in time, would people actually like for them to make a controller that was similar, or at least on the lines of what the DualSense controller is? And it's obvious, if these rumors and leaks are true, it's obvious that he listened and people had to have voted and said that they would like something like that. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this actually does on April 9th. We do know that it's one thing Xbox can do. They can sell some controllers. Their controller selling game is crazy. If their console doggone selling was up to par like their controller selling skills, man, these jokers would be at 80 million by now. But we will see. I am, again, I sound like such an Xbox hater. And I'm like, God, dog. Sometimes I got to catch myself. Man, oh man, Xbox is a good platform. I'm not even going to say they need to do better, because they have been doing better. But I digress. We're going to get through this story. But I'm all tongue-tied once again, but I am very interested to see what this controller actually comes out to be. If it's going to really kind of take those same nuances as the DualSense controller, because man, when you feel that rumble and the triggers when you're shooting a gun or you're going over certain terrain, and you can kind of feel it in the controller, it is really, really dope. It's amazing. Again, I haven't seen a game do it better than Astrobot. Astrobot is the pinnacle of what this controller can do. The DualSense, that is, and that comes with every PlayStation. So that game alone just sold me on the controller. Again, I haven't played a game that has come remotely close to doing or implementing the things into the gameplay as the Astrobot team did. That's from Spider-Man Miles Morales to doggone, what am I playing now? Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. They do it a little bit with the trigger. When you're shooting the weapons, you can feel the trigger kind of vibrating. It's pretty dope. but nothing comes close to what Astrobot was able to do. So I'm hoping that now this would be a smart thing for Microsoft to do when it does come to this controller. Hopefully they will have some game to actually show off what the potential of this controller and its haptic feedback will be capable of, because without having something to really give it a showpiece, give it that stage that is needed, it could make it a hard sale if people can't understand why they're actually buying the controller. So hopefully they'll have something similar to Astrobot set up during the time when this is supposed to release allegedly on April 9th. Let's go ahead and let's get back to Mr. Crimson Phoenix, because we're going to seesaw back and forth. Now, the next email that I got from Mr. Crimson Phoenix, this was back. Okay, this is at least this month, Crimson, so I don't feel too bad about this one, good brother. But the title of his email is Short Answer is No. He says, an only slightly longer answer is. He says Sea of Thieves is a perfect example of these games being able to thrive and currently sits around 5,000 plus concurrent players on Steam alone. And I know it's at least just as popular on Xbox. But here's the kicker. Wait a minute, Crimson. 5,000? Well, I guess 5,000 is, I guess that's okay. I don't know, though, Crimson. The numbers seem a little low, my good brother. I don't know about this. But let me continue with your email, my good brother. He says, but here's the kicker. It's due to release on PlayStation with cross-platform play. Those numbers will climb even higher. Now, you ain't lying there. Anytime that game was number one on the, not even the wish list, but pre-ordered list. Yeah, you're right about that. Those numbers are definitely going to go much higher. But he says proving releasing those gas games everywhere is important so they have the chance to succeed, given they are also good games. That is true. Now, I do understand that from that standpoint, gas games, you need players. And in order to feed that beast, you need to put it on as many platforms as possible. I understand that. It's still, I'm going to tell you though, Crimson, it's still a bit of a thorn in my side, just a little bit. And I have to go on record again and say, I don't have a Series X or S console, but it is just my mindset. I'm from that old school way, and I know that way is dying. I understand that fully. It's not the way that it used to be, where you get a game on a specific platform and you can't play that game anywhere else. I 100% get that model is slowly dying, and Xbox is at the forefront of that happening. So I 100% get that, but it's still an adjustment period for me, brother. But again, I understand why they're doing it. These games need a player base. It takes money to run these games, from the servers to the DLC that they put into the games. It really continuously takes money to keep these games updated. So when something costs money, you need a player base there, a consistent player base there to be able to feed that machine, feed that beast. So I 100% agree with you on that, Crimson Phoenix. It's just so hard for me to wrap my mind around Xbox games actually coming to PlayStation first party. But I guess PlayStation did shoot first, maybe not from their own, maybe it wasn't from their own, their own doing. The MLB made them make their baseball game multi-platform, so they had to go with the flow if they wanted to continue with the MLB license. But I digress. Crimson Phoenix, he says also, so no, they are not dead devs. Just have to give a little more effort to make them good, and for the publisher to release it everywhere with cross-play. I hear you, brother. I hear what you're saying, Crimson, but man, this is just such an interesting time. Just having games like Sea of Thieves, and not only Sea of Thieves, but games like Hi-Fi Rush that just released on the PlayStation 5. That's not a gas game, so it's just such a crazy imbalance that Xbox has going on. That's what scares me. Not so much the gas games per se, because again, I agree with you, Crimson. You need that player base to continue to have that game to keep going forward, to keep moving, keep it funded. You need people. But when it comes to the single player games, I don't know, but I know that didn't have anything to do with your question, the single player. We were just talking about Sea of Thieves. But brother, I truly, truly appreciate this. And I got one more that I'm going to read from you in just a minute after this next story that we're going to go over. So this next story, I actually got it from Gaming Bible. So keeping with the leaked theme, EA could have possibly leaked their own game in the EA Gear store, which sells merchandise and apparel, tweeted a technical plan poster of the plasma cutter from the Dead Space franchise. However, they used an image from Dead Space 2 as the background to the image. Now, I know this is a long shot, and the Dead Space 2 image could have been a general mistake, but not too long ago, EA sent out a EA survey asking fans how they would feel about a Dead Space 2 and 3 remake. So could it be a possibility that this is happening? Now, me, myself, I've been on record saying I never played the original Dead Space, and I darn sure didn't play Dead Space 2. We know that Dead Space remake, the first one, came off to a very, very great success. So much so I actually have it upstairs. No, I have not cracked the wrapper on it. That or about 6 other games that I have not cracked the wrapper on. God dog, my backlog is terrible already. But what I do understand is from the success, EA, they understand money. And if it sells, they will definitely do another one. So would you guys be interested in seeing another Dead Space remake, Dead Space 2? Because the thing that I heard about Dead Space 1, the first remake that they did was, I'm trying to get to it. They did some things that actually changed it from the original, something to do with the camera angle. I think when you were floating in space, they made some changes, some very positive changes to the gameplay that made it much better than the original. So when you're talking about making those kind of changes, to not just simply remake a game just from a graphic standpoint, but also from a gameplay standpoint, that can really, really change things, change things for the better. So I'm hoping that if this is true, they would do the same thing. Now, I don't know how not even how bad, but any problems that anybody really brought up with Dead Space 2. Some people say that it was the best one in the franchise. It was Dead Space 2. So I'm not too sure. I haven't played that one, but would you guys be interested in a Dead Space 2 remake? I definitely would, because again, going off of the track record of the first remake and seeing the glowing reviews that it got, I would definitely be excited to continue on into the second one. Now, I know the third one, that may be one where people might be like, you lost me. I don't want that. The third one, you can keep it. Me, I played the third one, and I would tell y'all, if they remake it in today's graphics, I have to pick that up. I would definitely be a customer, 100%. But we will see if this actually ends up being true or not. Like I said, once again, the plasma cutter, from Dead Space 2, that background image that they used, it could have been simply a mistake, or they could be hinting at something, but we will see in the near future. Let's go ahead and let's switch back to Mr. Crimson Phoenix's last email that he sent me. Let me get this up here right now. Shout out to my brother Crimson Phoenix. Now, this is his last email. He says, This is the name of his email. Oh man, this brother's coming off, buddy. He says, I have some oceanfront property for sale in Idaho. If you believe that. Now, I do know what this is pertaining to. Well, you know what? Let's get into this good brother's email. He says, Series S is holding back the Series X, you say. Let's think about that for a moment. Oh man, here we go. This is my brother right here. He says, okay, I see that on paper it is less powerful, and in the real world it shows. But holding the X back, I don't know, man. I think it's more bias in favor for play. Bias, come on, Crimson. Oh man, bias. I'm going to continue with your email, brother. Oh my gracious. He says, look at it. You say, look at it like this. Let's say the PS5 Pro comes out, and let's also say that based on previous logic where the S holds the X back, the regular PS5 will then hold the Pro back, right? Now, hold on, Crimson. Now, hold on, brother. See, I got to take this step by step because, you know, your email, it's not long. It's not long in all seriousness, but I know that, I won't be able to concentrate and get back to the points that I'm trying to make if I keep reading. That's why sometimes I just pause in the middle of the email so I can address what you're saying in real time and not skip over it later on. So this is the thing, Crimson. Now that would be a good point where you said that if the PS5 Pro comes out, it would hold back the PlayStation 5. I got to tell you, brother, we have seen PlayStation when they came to their dual releases, my brother. We had Spider-Man Miles Morales come out on the PlayStation 4 and on the PlayStation 5. Brother, that PlayStation 5 version was rocking, brother. They had ray tracing in it, 60 frames per second. They had obvious things in that version of the game that you could not get on the PlayStation 4 version. So they showed that gap. Even with Horizon Forbidden West, the same thing. They showed the gap where they were able to do things on the PlayStation 5 version that they were not able to do on the PlayStation 4 version. So I'm taking it from that standpoint, and that standpoint only, Crimson, that they would be able to do the same thing when it comes to the PlayStation 5 Pro versus the PlayStation 5. And then you look over on Xbox's side and you tell me, Crimson Phoenix, what game on the Xbox's side between the X and the S, where the X outside of Baldur's Gate 3, because that was the other thing, Crimson. You remember that they had to, well, Phil Spencer had to tell those guys, okay, you can do what you can do on the S, but go ahead and do your thing on the X version. They made it clear. Anyway, Crimson, hold on, bro. I ain't going to get too far because you still got a lot of email here. I don't want to, chip into some of the points that you might make later on. He says, or will you see the Pro's extra power get used by third-party devs, proving my point? The love for PlayStation is real, and there's a deep-seated hate for Xbox. It's elementary, Watson. It's elementary. Wait a minute, Crimson. So, nah, brother, hold on, Crimson. It is no way you can believe the people. Now, granted, now, Crimson, I am going to say this, brother. There are some people, you are right. It's some people out there that they just don't like Xbox. They don't like the brand. No matter what they do, it doesn't matter how many great games Xbox comes out with, they're not gonna buy it. I will definitely agree with you on that. But I do still believe, though, Crimson Phoenix, that it is still another section of people out there that if Xbox has great games at their disposal on their console, that people will go out and buy an Xbox for those games. We saw on the PlayStation console itself the PlayStation 5 that people still went out and bought. Sea of Thieves. And I'm not going to say, well, it had to be droves. It got the #1 spot as the most pre-ordered game on that console's platform. So I do believe, like I was saying an episode or two ago, I do believe that the chatter on Twitter and all of these other social media spaces where us, the 1%, are there, and while their console, as my good brother Z says, game banging out there, as we out there game banging, trying to rep the red, green, and blue out there. It's the real world where people aren't even in this thing like that. They're, just looking for a fun game to play. They're not into the console war. Like myself, I love this stuff. I'm going to tell you, Crimson, I love it, brother. Absolutely love it. But there are people that just want to play games. They're not into the industry like we are. They're not following it as closely as we are. We're the enthusiasts. We're the guys that are the lowest percent. Like I said, I think we make up like 10%, maybe 20% of the gaming industry, being the hardcore versus the rest of the people. So again, there are definitely people out there that do have a deep-seated hate, as you say, for Xbox, but I still do believe that if Xbox was to do things that people wanted, games that were very compelling to make people want to go out there and buy the console, they definitely would. And I know me as a PlayStation 5 owner, a proud PlayStation 5 owner, that when Xbox gets out there, I'm waiting on this Senua's Saga, brother. If this Senua's Saga is hitting like that, Crimson, I can guarantee you, my good brother, I will be picking up an Xbox. I'm just waiting for the right time to pick it up, my brother. Right now, I'm just waiting. The PlayStation 5, they have all of the games that appeal to me versus Xbox. They don't really have anything that speaks to my heart, to my gaming soul, my brother. They just don't have it right now. But with games like Senua's Saga and Fable that will be coming up soon, along with a couple of other titles, they could definitely change my mind. I want to get a Series X, but I'm not going to just give them my money blindly just because it's Xbox. Right now, PlayStation 5, I'm eating so good, brother. God, dog. Even though I got meals that I got on the side that I haven't even opened up yet, aka games, just laid all over the place. But that's the thing. They have been feeding me well, my good brother. And so much so, again, that I haven't felt that real reason to go out there and get Xbox Series X. Just like you, my brother, you don't feel the need to go out there and buy a PlayStation 5 right now. And I'm sure that if they do get a game that you are looking forward to and you can see yourself playing and it's something that you would be very excited for, I'm sure you would go out there and get the PlayStation 5 when that happens. But let me continue with your email. I absolutely love this email, brother. He says, if we can't see it for what it really is, then why bother? Are you personally going to skip this Xbox gen in favor for PlayStation 5 Pro? Now that's the thing. Hold on, Crimson. Now that's the thing, my good brother. You already know me, brother. I need them all. I'm Pokemon of this joke. I need all of the consoles. I have a Switch upstairs that I have not played, and I'm a little embarrassed to say this, but I haven't played it in a year. And I actually have one of the highly anticipated games that came out on that console, which is, Mario Wonder. I actually have Mario Wonder, and I have not played the game. God, dog, I'm terrible.
Move this man.
I don't. Jokers done boo me off the show. But I'm saying, man, that's the thing. I need them all, brother. And that's the thing. You can have a PlayStation with an Xbox, with a Nintendo. I've always been a gamer that has been blessed, very, very blessed. I don't take it for granted. Just speaking serious for a minute. I've never taken it for granted to be blessed to be able to get all of the consoles that have released. I'm always one that would rather have all of the consoles and not miss out on anything than to have that one console and possibly miss out on a ton of games so that I would want to play. So that's where I'm actually at when it comes to the Xbox right now. I would definitely, I ain't gonna say definitely, because depending on that price point, Crimson, I don't know if they talking about $700 for the PlayStation 5 Pro. I mean, listen, man, I would definitely, like I said, if they showed me something real good, Crimson, I would trade in my PlayStation 5 that I have right now to get the credit for the PlayStation 5 Pro and take it from there, because the other thing is, Crimson, and this is interesting. People were talking about Grand Theft Auto 6 running at 60 frames per second with the PlayStation 5 Pro. It's reports coming out right now that are saying that still wouldn't be enough to have Grand Theft Auto 6 run at 60 frames per second. So it seems like even the frame rate battle, if it's going to be the PS5 Pro versus the Series X, and let's just say, putting it in that perspective, if Xbox doesn't officially make a Series X Pro, then they're going to have to go somewhere else when it comes to the frame rate, maybe ray tracing or some other things that may happen faster, loading times or something like that. I don't know. But again, my only point is, even with the Pro, it doesn't seem like it'll be able to run GTA 6 at that high fidelity that people were thinking that it would possibly be able to do. I mean, we'll have to see what happens when it does come out, but that's at least what's being reported right now. But let me finish up your email here, good brother. He says, I can see it now. Everybody capping for the PlayStation 5 Pro remaster of the remastered Definitive Plus edition, now with more frames. LOL. I'm telling you, it's gonna be some people out there, Crimson. Hey, man. Hey, brother, you know how it goes online. People like to talk. They like to talk smack, man. They like to bring down the other console that they are opposed to, that they don't like, they don't enjoy it. They will do and say any and everything to tear down the console that they don't like. So if the PlayStation 5 Pro is doing some things that the Xbox Series X is not able to do, oh, you better believe you gonna hear it from top to bottom on people's timelines, brother. It's definitely gonna happen. You are not wrong about that. But again, I will say that I don't think that's everyone's stance. That's not my stance. I mean, again, I love having fun with it, Crimson. I'm a talk, brother. I'm a talk. Throw some shots here and there. But the truth of the matter is, though, I haven't been for a while, but I'm starting to come back around to possibly being an Xbox fan, because for a while, man, they had burned me, brother. I will be honest and tell you that they have burned me, and I have not liked the direction that Xbox has been going in. Haven't liked it at all. So as a result, I haven't picked up the console. But if they can change their ways, my brother, and bring out those games that really entice me, intrigue me, and get me very excited, I will definitely be picking up a Xbox Series X. He says, let me continue on with your last two parts. He says, no, thank you. I'll get that on my PC and only pay once. If you don't understand that, then you don't understand English. LOL. I'm done talking. Hey, Crimson Phoenix, brother, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you. That was a great email, brother. That was a great email, man. But listen, again, it's going to be people out there that are just going to completely try to ruin the Xbox Series X by saying that the PlayStation 5 Pro is just that much better. The Digital Foundry, they are not going to help the situation. They are going to stroke the flames of the console war with all of these comparisons. So you're right. Get ready, brother, because it is going to happen. But the one thing that we have to remember, though, is as it stands, even though everything is pointing to the PlayStation 5 Pro being a real thing, we do still, to be fair, we still have to wait to see what PlayStation says. Now, it was a report earlier this week that I had read where PlayStation was going to be tightening up some of their, not relationships necessarily, but just trying to tighten up their circle from, this information seeping out. Because somebody inside leaked this information. They're trying to tighten up their belt and trying to, keep a lid on some things. Think they were going around to third-party publishers and developers, to actually have a conversation with them. So that does lead and give a little more credence that this is true, because why investigate a problem that doesn't exist? So, but again, we just got to wait to get the official word from PlayStation, which could be sometime in May, very, very possibly. But Crimson Phoenix, thank you again, brother, for this email. It was very, very good. I thoroughly enjoyed it, man. And I'm really, really hoping that you continue to write in, my good brother. Thank you again. I got to clap it up for you, brother. So right here, now this is the thing. Now I had given this out a couple of weeks ago. This is a $25 PlayStation gift card. I'm laughing, right? Because I'm showing Crimson Phoenix like, man, here you go with a PlayStation card. Where's the Xbox card? Don't worry, brother. They coming soon too, man. But nobody actually said that they claimed this PlayStation gift card. So it's for $25. We know that what is the game that I'm looking forward to? Very, very much so. Blade. Man, my memory is terrible, but y'all know the game I'm talking about with the female protagonist and calling it Blade Yams or something like that. Anyway, here is the doggone gift card number. This is as follows. So for $25, get your pens out, paper out, get ready to write this down and redeem it. So here it is. This is the code. It is E9CFTFNBGKXR. If you do win, if you're able to redeem this, that's what I wanted to say. If you're able to redeem this, just call me and let me know at 443-380-0281 so I can shout you out and know that I can throw this away and move on to the next card to give away, or email the show at the Analog Circle Podcast at gmail.com. It doesn't have to be a long email. Just type your name, the city you're from, and just let me know that you won. I would really love to shout you out. But let's go ahead and let's move on into the next story. So this next story, and this is a very interesting one because we were just talking about Grand Theft Auto 6, but I got this story from Game Rant. So it appears GTA 6's development is falling behind. Now, this is based off of a new report that says senior Rockstar officials are worried that GTA 6 could miss its planned release window. And because of this was one of the inciting factors behind Rockstar's purported decision to mandate its employees to return back to the office in April. So mainly the higher ups are said to be concerned about the company's ability to wrap up the final stages of GTA 6's development without letting the game slip into 2026 should everyone keep working remotely. And it was even said the release window for GTA 6 would be spring of 2025, which would be amazing that we would be getting it earlier in the year next year. But according to Kotaku reports, fall of 2025 seems a little more realistic. So those reports where Rockstar was telling their employees they got to get back to the office, they can no longer work remotely from home, they seem like that they are trying to get this thing wrapped up. And the only way that they're going to be able to do it, to keep it on schedule, to keep everything on track without it slipping out of its original release window, is all hands have to be on deck, and seems like in person. Because the thing about this is that, with this game being as highly anticipated as it is such a fever pitch of people waiting for this game to release that if it was to slip, then again, man, how many Rockstar games have actually ever stayed on track to begin with? It seemed like Grand Theft Auto 5, that slipped out of the window. Grand Theft Auto 4, that seemed to have slipped as well. I don't know about Max Payne, but lately Rockstar, they haven't been on track with their release dates. Red Dead Redemption 2, that slipped when that was supposed to be released. So, I mean, I guess the good thing is that if it does get delayed, maybe it won't hit the spring of 2025 release date that is allegedly supposed to happen, and it would just slip into the fall, which still means that even though like I said, the original release window wouldn't happen, at least we would still be getting it sometime in 2025 in the fall, which most people, I'm sure, believe that it was going to release anyway. So, we'll see what happens with this. Hopefully everybody will get back into the office. They'll be able to wrap this up because, again, I mean, they said that it seems like they are, I just put it down. They're trying to wrap up the final stages of the game. So it looks like, I don't know if that includes mocap or if it includes reading lines of dialogue and, things of that nature, because again, this is still a year plus off, from actually releasing. So, I'm sure they just got to tighten it up, get it together, get it across the finish line. And it seems like that's when it really becomes crucial with most of these gaming projects. It's the getting it across the finish line. Like they'll have all of the work done that'll lead you up into the final stage. But that final stage push really seems to be the most crucial. And I get it with anything. The ending is always, the hardest part to get done, to get over the finish line. But I would think that actually ramping everything up, getting everything together, bringing everything together would be the hard part, not the ending, of wrapping it up. I would think that would be a little easier, but it seems like in game development, it doesn't work that way. It seems like that is the hardest part to get right. So, we'll see what happens with this, man. I mean, again, this is a game that will have been in development for I guess when it comes out, 12 years darn near that it would have been in development. So if they can't get it past the finish line in that much time without a lot of, I guess a lot of hardship, then I don't know what to think. I know they've had a lot of changes. A lot of people have come into roles. Some people have left. I think the Hauser brothers, they're no longer together. They've separated. So it's been some major changes that have happened over at Rockstar. I'm just hoping again that they'll be able to keep this thing on track and it won't bleed over into 2026. That's what we don't want, but we will see, and we'll keep our eyes in the pulse on this story as the days and months go along. Let's get into the next story. So the next story I got the story from The Loadout. Now, you guys know this is this thing gets me so excited when I talk about it every time. But you guys know my most anticipated game this year is Star Wars Outlaws. And usually when you think of Star Wars in general, you think of it as more of a family-friendly kind of franchise. When it comes to Star Wars, no blood or anything like that, no cursing, anything, but when it comes to Outlaws, things may be a little different because according to the Korean Games rating, the Game Ratings Rating and Administration Committee's classification, the age rating classes the game in the 19 plus bracket, which is the highest rating. Now, God, Korea has been on absolute fire with these leaks and having things get not necessarily leaked, but with these certifications and things. We're talking about Xbox last week, and then this week we got Star Wars Outlaws. So let's continue though. Games in this category though, this 19 plus bracket, games in this category, they exhibit high levels of violence, hard profanity, depictions of nudity, and or iterations of on-screen gambling. So it looks like the latter. I can't imagine that in a Star Wars game they are going to be showing nudity or using profanity. That's just, I don't know about that. I mean, the levels of violence will be there, but I don't think it's going to be blood and gore or anything like that. But I think that the thing that does stand out the most is the gambling part, because it looks like, that would be the reason why it gets this rating, because none of that stuff would happen in a Star Wars game, especially a IP that is owned by Disney. It is no way that's going to happen. So, let's continue on though. It says, gambling will be featured in, quote, gambling will be featured in the game. Quote, this is the quote. It says, a mini game with content of in-game betting and dividends, end of quote. So furthermore, Star Wars Outlaws' depiction of gambling is described as, quote, realistic simulation of speculative behavior, landing it as a title not suitable, quote, for use by minors, end of quote. Pardon me, I'm up here hiccuping so bad. Excuse me. So a bigger subject now, hold on before we get into the bigger subject though, but it seems like this will be a game that has a big, heavy presence with gambling. It always interests me though, when you talk about gambling in games, because you're not talking about real money here. You're talking about virtual currency. You're not putting up real dollars to actually be able to do this. But over in Korea, they are not playing any games. If you are in any kind of way showing any way of gambling, whether it's virtually or whatever the case may be, this is not suitable for children. I guess they're probably trying to prevent a habit in a younger person becoming a habit as an adult. I mean, who knows? But some people do have those kind of personalities where they become addicted to something very easily. And maybe that's just something they are trying to avoid for the youth. But let me move on though, because it's a bigger subject at hand. Now that the game has been rated, could this mean that the game is closer to release? Now, over on Twitter, his name is Jor, it's spelled Jor, Jor Raptor. He gave a timeline about games that have actually been approved, from the board of Korea. He gave a timeline of how long it takes for those games after they get approved to actually come to market. So Assassin's Creed Mirage got rated on July 17th and it launched October 5th. That was roughly 80 days. You had Star Wars Jedi Survivor. It got rated January 9th and it was planned to release on March 17th, which would have been 67 days, but instead it got delayed until April 28th. So it made it 109 days. And then you have The Division 2 that got rated on January 8th and it launched on March 12th. So 63 days later. So going off of this pattern, could Outlaws actually launch in June or July? Because you figure March is a done deal. We're not going to include March, but if you go 3 months out, that'll take us to June, April, May, June. And at the furthest extent, maybe July, which would be, that would cover that 80-day cycle. So I'm just wondering, Could this be an indication that this game is going to come out during the summer? I would love for that to be the case. I don't know if it is going to happen. I mean, because we do have that one example of, strangely enough, Jedi Survivor, actually being delayed, and it made the rating, from the board. It actually took it out to 109 days because it wasn't ready. It got delayed. And we do know that that is a possibility that could happen with Jedi Outlaws. Hopefully it doesn't, but I'm hoping that this timeline, it will keep it to come out between June and July. But it is a big title, and sometimes big titles, they want to release them during the holiday season. So that could also be an option. But I just want this game so bad that I'm hoping, that it'll release over the summer. Let's go ahead and move on into the next story. And before we do go into that next story, it's been bothering me this whole time. The PlayStation 5 game that I was referring to was Stellar Blade. I just could not get it together. So hopefully you guys will use the $25 gift card to put towards that game if that was a game that you were interested in, or if you haven't picked up Final Fantasy 7, what's it called? Final Fantasy 7. I'm forgetting the name of that. But if you want to pick up part 2, then you'll be able to do that as well. But let's get into the next story. So this next story, I actually got it from Game Rant. So shifting into this is unfortunate Sony Bend Studios news. According to a recently surfaced Bend Studio job ad reviewed by Game Rant, the developer's new IP is a live service game.
Boo this man!
Man, now the listing, which advertises an opening for a lead project manager, explicitly mentions live service games thrice, both in the context of the eventual hires, everyday responsibilities, and the ideal candidates required and preferable experience. Now, Bend Studios had pitched 2 other games before the live service game became a thing. One was an open world Resistance game, and the other one was, of course, a Days Gone sequel. I don't know how this is going to turn out. Another live, another live service game. We see where these are going. And that was a question I'd asked. I'd asked about the gas games, and Crimson, shout out to that good brother. He had hit me up and said, man, them jokers ain't going nowhere. They're going to be around a long time. And it appears Sony is trying to make it a thing again. Well, not make it a thing, but to continue to make it a thing by having Sony Bend work on one. I would have much, much rather seen them make a Days Gone 2. I have Days Gone upstairs. That one is not in the wrapper. I've actually played Days Gone, but I didn't beat it. I'll continue to play it on the PlayStation 5. Oh man, eventually. I don't know who I'm lying to. I don't know when I'm going to get to that, but that's at least my plan to get to it again. But I would have loved to have seen them be able to make a second one of those. I know that it was one of those games that had it was a slow burn when it came out. Excuse me. It wasn't like really well received. And I would even say for me, that running out of gas on the motorcycle thing, man, that was very tedious. And because of that, I was like, man, I just don't feel like playing this right now. So even for me, it turned me off a little bit. But from what I understand, kind of similar to, what's the game? Starfield. You just kind of got to play it for a little while. And eventually, when you get some hours in, you start to upgrade your bike. Things get better, and it becomes a much better experience later on down the line. So knowing that, when you see the reviews on the game, it actually wasn't bad. Matter of fact, let's go to I'll go to Metacritic and see what the score is right now. Hold on. Matter of fact, hold on. Let's see if I can find it. What is the Metacritic score for Days Gone?
According to Forbes, the only thing has to be critical reception, where Days Gone has a 71 Metascore, which is pretty low for a PlayStation exclusive, even if fans rate it a higher.
Okay, so yeah, 71, and you heard what she said. That's pretty low for a PlayStation score. But when you looked at the fans, now these could be these fans that, Crimson was talking about. They're going to cap for PlayStation no matter what. There were some that actually gave it an 8.4 out of 10. And that's what I heard. I heard that the game started out slow, but it got better. People started enjoying it more. Now that it's on PlayStation 5, you're actually able to run it at 60 frames per second. People said it was a much better experience on that console. So who knows? Maybe they're talking about it from that standpoint, but I digress. This is terrible for me because I will not be playing this game. I know I won't. I was really looking forward to seeing what Sony Ben would be able to work on next. I mean, even if they didn't want to make a sequel to Days Gone because maybe to Sony, it was possibly a failure. Matter of fact, well, it's only a failure if it doesn't sell well. Let's see. How many copies did Days Gone sell?
According to Wikipedia, upon release, Days Gone received mixed reviews from critics, who criticized the game's mission design and technical issues but praised the graphics, artificial intelligence, and Sam Witwer's performance as Deacon. The game had sold 7.32 million units by February 2022.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, that's pretty good, but they didn't break that 10 million. We know that I ain't going to say a lot. That's a little bit of cap on my part, but we do know that Sony has been able to at least sell 10 million plus copies of their game. So them running at about 7.32 million units being sold, that can be looked at as slightly on the lower side, but still, that's a lot of copies for a new IP. I would have thought that they would have gave it a second chance. I know that under the old regime of PlayStation, they would have given it a second chance, but these guys right now, man, these jokers are cutthroat when it comes to the budget. So I don't think that they want to take the chance, but yet they're going to take the chance on a live service game. I don't know about this. We'll see about it though. But, as always, we'll keep our hand on the pulse and see how this goes, when the game gets more, I guess, flushed out as the days and months go on. Let's go ahead and let's get into our final story for this week. So I got this story from Insider Gaming. Now, a few weeks ago, we found out Toys for Bob had been set up to be independent from Xbox. And Toys said them and Xbox might work together in the future. And it appears that this is the case. So according to a report from Windows Central's Jez Gordon, Xbox's Matt Booty reportedly told employees that the two companies had reached a deal for the new game. However, he didn't go into any detail about what the game would be. Oh, pardon me. So it looks like they have finally come to a agreement. Didn't seem like it took long, about 2 weeks or so. It looks like they will be working with Xbox. They will be the first game that they will be releasing. Well, their game will be the first independent game that they'll be releasing. It'll be on Xbox, which is a good thing. But unfortunately, again, they did not give any details about what the game will be. Now, I'm still of the mindset, now I don't know. In that report, Toys for Bob did say that their game is a ways off. They won't be showing anything for a while, but I'm still of the mindset that it's going to be Spyro the Dragon. I mean, they have done Crash Bandicoot quite a few times. Haven't really found that traction or success with Crash like they did back in the day. Like I said, they made me an absolute fan of Spyro with that trilogy, that remake trilogy that they came out with. I would be very excited to see a Spyro underneath these graphics of today. Seeing what the team would be able to do, being able to have the rings off finally and not having to worry about Call of Duty or anything like that, but really be able to put their creative chops to actual work and come out with a great game. I mean, either way it goes, it could be Spyro or a new IP. I'll definitely be excited to see what Toys for Bob will be working on in the near future. I'm pretty excited about this. That is not the last story. This is the last story. It's just a bit of a rumor that's going around, that Final Fantasy IX will be getting a remake. Now, a bit of the speculation for this comes from producer and director of Final Fantasy XIV, Naoki Yoshida, where he revealed a collector's edition for the upcoming Dawn Trail expansion for Final Fantasy XIV at PAX East. But what is included in the package is a Final Fantasy IX themed bonus item. Now, we also said, quote, "You may have noticed a lot of Final Fantasy IX references here, but the reason is a secret," end of quote. So him saying that has led to a little bit of speculation. And this speculation for Final Fantasy IX being remade has been going around for a little bit of time. Not a very long time, but a few short months here and there. We've been hearing little things about this being a possibility of happening. And him just saying that, it's a lot of references to Final Fantasy IX, but, it's a secret. That really got people to thinking, man, they could definitely be working on a Final Fantasy IX remake. And the thing about Final Fantasy IX is I didn't play it. I tapped out when it came to the original PlayStation. I tapped out on Final Fantasy VIII with Squall, and that Gunblade was magnificent. Absolutely loved that game. Thought it was fantastic. But that's where I had pretty much tapped out, because with Final Fantasy IX, it looked like they were going back to the essence of the mages and the knights and, kind of like that period of time. And I was like, I'm out. That's all right. I don't need that in my life. I'm good. But a lot of people believed that Final Fantasy IX was like amazing. It was one of the higher rated Final Fantasies of that time. We had went over that in an episode a couple of weeks ago, where it was the highest rated Final Fantasy out there in the franchise, if I'm not mistaken. That people held it in such high regard. So getting those kind of numbers, having people love the game that much, it would definitely make sense for them to actually make a Final Fantasy IX remake. Now, how long that would take, I don't know, because they still got to make the last part of Final Fantasy VII to actually wrap that up, so it's no telling how long that's going to take to happen. So I'm sure that if this is going to happen, this is going to be a ways into the future before we hear anything about it. But anyway, that is the end of the gaming news and the end of the feedback for this week. So, with that being said, there will be no video game theater this week, just for the sake of time. I got to get ready to get out here and get to work. But as always, I do want to leave you guys with a question for the week in our final section of the podcast. And I know you guys saw it already, and I appreciate you guys being here, but let's go over it officially. So, will PSVR 2 sell more with a price cut? Now, we did report on it last week that it looks like they're not going to be selling any more units until they're able to dump out their backlog of PSVR 2 units. They're not going to be making any new ones. So with that, it led people to believe that a price cut will be coming very soon in order to get rid of that inventory. So for me, like I said, I would be interested. I have been interested in the PSVR 2 since it was even not launched even necessarily, before it was even launched, like during the lead up of the development of it, I was very excited about it. Just reading about the different features, seeing what it was going to be, reading about what it was going to be capable of doing. They had me as a customer. It was two things that really kind of knocked me off of my square of getting it. And it was definitely the price point. That was first and foremost. That price point is just so steep at the moment. And the second thing was no backwards compatibility. I was very excited to see them be able to take some of those old PSVR games and see how much they would be able to enhance them with the PSVR 2 having way more power, the PlayStation 5 being way more powerful than the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 4 Pro. I was so excited to see how Blood and Truth would run on the PSVR 2. But then when they said that it was going to be no backwards compatibility, that really threw me for a loop. So those two were the factors for me. I've kind of now at this point got a little past the backwards compatibility. So I'm concentrating more so on the price now. But the question I would have for you guys is, with a price cut, would you buy the PSVR 2? And the bigger question is how much would it take? How much of a price cut would it take for you to buy a PlayStation VR 2? Like I said, for me, if they could get it somewhere between $300 and $350, I would be sold. They would have me. I would be a customer, no doubt about it. I don't think they're going to go that aggressive. I think the best we can get, and last week I was saying maybe 500 would be the best they would do, but that wouldn't do anything. They may cut it to 4. If they cut it to 400 and they actually include a game or two, something like that with it, that may do something, but I'm thinking between $300 and $350 is the sweet spot. But that is my question for you. Will PSVR 2 sell more with a price cut? I would love to hear from you guys. If you guys want to be a part of the conversation, you can do it two different ways. You can either call in at 443-380-0281 and let your voice be heard, or you can email the show like my good brother Crimson Phoenix at the Analog Circle Podcast at gmail.com. Before we wrap it up, let me ask you guys, do you guys prefer that kind of format? Because 3 emails, I can put those into the show a lot easier than like 5 and 6. So if this was a format that you guys like, just putting the feedback inside of the episode, this is how I used to do it years ago. I used to do it this way. But I figured that if I can implement the emails into the show, but yet keep the show moving along, that would be a little better. But you guys let me know if this is something you would be interested in me switching to this format, and we'll see if we can make that happen. But it would have to be 3 or less emails, though. It would. But anyway, let's go ahead and wrap it up. I was your host, Keon Mitchell, and again, thank you guys so much for being here. So before we officially wrap it up and put that bow on it, always remember one thing. It is not about the consoles. It is about the games. So we will possibly, and it depends. It depends on, I don't know how many emails we get. We might be back at it again Wednesday, but I'm going to say for sure we will be back at it on Sunday. So until then, you guys take care. Be safe out there. Bye-bye.